Hi, welcome to Tai Chi Class 9. I'm going to introduce the idea of the lower Dantian today. The lower Dantian is an energy centre in the belly, which is arguably the most fundamental principle in Tai Chi and Qigong, in the Chinese arts. In Japanese energy philosophy, they call it the hara. And arguably it's the same as or different to the sacral chakra, depending on what you read or what you feel into. I'm going to give you a rough description. It's described differently by different people. Ultimately, an energy centre inside the body is something to feel into ourselves rather than receive information from outside. So what it's called or where it is, it is dependent upon yourself, really. So this is where the movement comes from ultimately. Like, it's an energy store, it's an endless energy store, and when we learn to utilize this energy, it helps us to move in a more relaxed and efficient way, and we can conserve our sort of physical, muscular energy. So we're talking about just below the belly button, a little way into the body, or maybe halfway into the body, size between feeling for yourself, and to start off with, we'll move into eagle flying, but to just putting the hand around this area, and imagining a little bit further in, seeing what you can feel. If you can't feel anything to begin with, don't worry, it can take a while to just develop the consciousness and the sensitivity in this area. So, and it's sort of feels like imagining, but it's becoming, the visualization is kind of part of the reality. So we kind of move from this energy center is to, for me, I think a reasonable way of describing it is imagining that we're moving this energy center, the lower Dantian. Imagine we're moving this like a micro millisecond before we're moving the rest of the body. So it's like imagining this is pulling us up and down. So here, as I'm sinking, just remember you're sinking. We're wanting the upright, and we're wanting the tilting the pelvis so that we're keeping the weight falling evenly through the feet. We've just got our core sinking and rising principles, and just feeling into the belly. See if you can start imagining this moving up and moving down. It's pulling the rest of the body down, and it's pulling the body up. So just to start by focusing on this area and doing this really simple movement in a sort of one-dimensional movement, we can begin. You can breathe into this area as well. And then with the arms, it's kind of like now this energy center, this is a ball that is sending energy out in all directions. So although we're practicing here, imagining it moving up and down, we can also imagine this energy coming out, filling up the arms. So just to recap over the arm principles in eagle flying, dropping the shoulders, elbows heavy, fingers sort of relaxed. Then the energy I've talked before about the filling up. This is kind of where we're filling up from. We're imagining filling up as we're lengthening. We're lengthening through the arms and legs. So maybe harder to focus in that area without the hands there and thinking about the arms doing something else. If your focus drifts towards that area, drifts away, just gently bring it back. It does really take commitment and practice, this kind of level. It's really worth it. Shake the legs out. So the 5 immortals is less the sinking up and down and the spreading out. We're going to do number 3, sowing the grain. So here, another kind of a different kind of dynamic around the Dantian is this. For this one, this is where we're turning. So we're turning around this centre, and this quite martial one, focusing on the Dantian, also helps us to focus on the central channel. So there's lower Dantians in the belly. There's debate about whether the middle Dantian is the solar plexus or the heart centre. Both, either. And the upper Dantian is the third eye. From a martial point of view, that we to have your energy coming through the centre, having your weight falling through the centre, and taking yourself off the centre to avoid your opponent. This area of the body is really important. So here we're rotating, sowing the grain. So just first, then put hands on the belly and feel this is where we're just moving the hips with a bit of an opening in the groin area, keeping the knees, aiming to keep the knees in line with the toes. We're keeping the weight centered here. So this is the central in the Qigong series. This is the central, grounded movement. We're just practicing turning the hips, keeping the upper body being carried. So we're aiming to stop when the hips and knees are at full stretch, not turning the torso, not turning the neck. Shake the legs out. And then the arms, kind of gathering from this energy centre and out. So remember, for this, it's the arms are coming up and down and rotating around, and then it's the turning of the hips that makes it appear to come forwards more than it does. But it's really more of a turning away, allowing the arms to flow. I'm not sure which direction to demonstrate this one with. So here even you can start to feel bringing in external energy into this area as well as out. That's not too much to think about. I go from the front for a bit and then I'm turned to the side. Sowing the grain. Sowing the grain, I would say, normally is coming up and out of the solar plexus rather than just coming out of this area, but you can feel, you can start to explore, make it your own. Since we are working on this area, we can keep it down here more. I think it's more of a kind of coming up, out. So in the Indian energy system, they do talk more about the solar plexus being the centre for power. We can explore up there as well. If you just want to carry on working on the hip movement and just to allow yourself less busyness in the arms to focus on what you want to focus on. The arms here. You can see my arms aren't moving too much on this plane. It's the opposite movement with the hip and the hand, all rotating around the belly. And this hands coming up and down the centre line, central axis. Shake the legs out. If you just want to copy behind for a bit, not sure how much to see from here, but what you can see is probably that the elbows and the hands aren't really coming out of the side of the body. You only see my back. Check it out again. Moving hands like clouds. Let's start. Hands on the belly again. Take a few breaths, make sure the weight's sunk down, knees are bent, same for the exercise we just did. Here, pulling as we shift the weight, keeping the hips square, stretching away from the knee, and then rotating, turning the hips, keeping the torso in line, shift, turn, turn. Just practice this a bit without the arms. Shifting, turning. So allowing the movement to come from the belly helps to relax the rest of the body. Just allowing the rest of the body to be drawn around, pulled to the side. a bit like the hanging from the thread principle we talked about 2 weeks ago, is this being pulled by this centre rather than being suspended from a thread. And then so the arms, eagle flying, shift and turn to one side, the same arm is up, shifting, changing the hands, turning, rotating. If you can focus on the Dantian and get the arms moving in a nice moving hands like clouds, you're doing amazingly well. So dip in and out of the Dantian as you are able. Or anything else that we look at in Tai Chi, if you're feeling, focusing on the feet, dropping the shoulders, just being in flow and breathing. Not wanting our Tai Chi practice to be stressful. Good to push yourself to work on the principles, but ultimately breathing, relaxing. From the front. Just stop at any time if the arms start to get confusing. You want to just come back to the lower body movement. Shake the legs out. So the walking, I remember my teacher talking to me about the Dantian and the walking, imagining like a Buddhist monk walking, peacefully through the gardens, and he's holding his belly. He's got his hands over the Dantian centre. Here, it's drawing forwards from this centre and backwards. I'm imagining my fist is inside my belly. So just putting our hands here, forward stance, shifting back, opening, so the knees stays forwards, knee toe facing into the corner, shifting. Let's just get the structure first. Stepping hip width, toes facing forwards, just swinging the leg out, depending how far you're sunk down. Shifting and squaring. Back, open, step. I got wobble on them. Making sure you're holding your energy back. Tilting the pelvis, shifting back as the foot comes forward so that you maintain perfect balance. The weight sunk down. And then And if you're managing to get the flow of the walking, the choreography, start to feel into the belly inside. Feel this ball of energy drawing you forwards and around, moving around it, and then pulling backwards, rotating around. Start to feel the spine upright either side of this space. Works in front of the spine. Helps with upright, it's making sure the head is above the Dantian. You're not tipping forwards. Making sure the tail is below. So we can use the awareness of this area to help us with our posture. Shake the legs out. Let's take a few breaths before we move into the form. So we went up to lifting hands last class. Next we have from lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. The energy from this move really, this is where from practicing the walking with the step, putting the foot down first and then shifting the weight is where the energy comes from. So although it's called shoulder strike, which arguably turns into an elbow strike, or could be an elbow strike, we're not, in no way are we pushing with the shoulder or with the elbow. It's having our arm in this fixed structure and shifting the weight of the body, creating this power. So let's just go, we'll run through the form up to lifting hands where we did last class, and then we'll break it down. So follow along. If you're familiar enough with the choreography to start feeling into moving with the Dantian in the form, please do go ahead. This is what we're aiming for. A lot of what we're working on in Tai Chi is ideals. So we have the rest of our time here to work on all of these things. So don't worry too much about getting it right to start off with. So starting posture, we can start by standing, bending the knees, dropping the tail. We can start by thinking about all of the things that we want to eventually be incorporating into our whole form. So we can just put the hand on the belly and take a few breaths deep into the belly. And even if it's just in the first step that we work on, what we want to work on, and then the mind is wondering what the hands are doing, then that's something. It's one step at a time. So starting posture, sinking into the right hand side, stepping out. sounds like small heavenly circles. Forward off left. Forward off right. And roll back. And press. Push. Single whip. Lifting hands. We're going to lifting hands. So let's show you from the front. So we'll just do the feet first, but I'll show you with the hands. From lifting hands, the heels are in line. We bring the toes in. So we're lifting the leg, balancing, using our balancing practice here. If you find balance difficult, you just want to brush the foot, that's fine too. Bringing the foot in, just touching the toes, and then coming back out on the heel, putting it down where it was, and then rolling through the foot and shifting the weight. So we're ending up in a forward stance, facing into this corner, if you can see corners from here. This is the leg corner. So from lifting hands, here the feet are at right angle, hips are open to the corner. Bringing the foot in, putting the foot down again, and then shifting the weight. So the forward stance would be talking about roughly 70% of the weight in the front, 30% of the weight in the back. This is being the front, and the right and left. So again, from lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. So let's show you from this way. Lifting hands, you can see the feet better from this way. Lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. Lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. So with the arms, lifting hands, pull down. So here we're rotating the arms as the foot comes in and lowering the hands, drawing down, in and down, and then big leg up. Just a small circle around the elbow joint here. This one tucks under. Show this from a different direction in a minute. And then as we're stepping out, this comes and sort of joins forces. Do you need to do it this way? Joins forces with this area of the arm. When we shift, we're holding this structure. And we shift the weight. Lifting hands. Pull down. shoulder strike. Lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike, turn. And this way, just going to do a few in each direction. You can see the different angles. Lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. Lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. Lifting hands, pull down, shoulder strike. And then next week, this is a bit of a landmark, nice sort of finishing point. Next week we'll do from shoulder strike, we come into white crane spreads its wings. So let's run through from the beginning to shoulder strike. And I will go from the front. Stepping out. Moving hands like small heavenly circles. Ward off left. Ward off right. Roll back. And press. Push. Single whip. Lifting hands. Pull down. Shoulder strike. So there, from single whip, facing hips facing this way, as we come into lifting hands, hips turn, pull down, hips turn back, shoulder strike, hips turning again. So that's plenty to practice for this week. Dantian and pull down shoulder strike.